Garden, and welcome to my review of the books I read this summer. I'm Avalon Roselin, indie author, and your SummerWeen trickster for the evening. The purpose of these reading wrap-up videos is to provide additional thoughts on the books I read beyond what was included in the quick review. Not every book I read will appear in these videos, just the ones that I have more to say about. I won't go into as much depth here as I do in my comprehensive review videos. There also won't be spoilers in this video, so you don't have to worry about skipping over any sections. Summer is oftentimes a season synonymous with horror to me. I mean, I enjoy horror in every season, but there's something special about summer. It's prime telling scary stories around the campfire, staying up late watching spooky videos, enjoying slasher movies time. And that carries over into my reading tastes as well. I look for fun, scary stories that can make me laugh and scream in equal measure. Did I succeed this summer? Let's start with Camp Scare by Delilah S. Dawson. I picked this book up from a Scholastic book fair, which set my expectation for a book that might get a little creepy, but would mainly focus on friendship and summer camp shenanigans. So I was completely unprepared for how brutal this book is. I am so glad that I read it before I added it to my classroom library, because I don't think I would let a child read this book. This one will be getting a full review video, so keep an eye out for that. Next up comes Hollow Kingdom by Kira Jane Buxton. I love both serious takes on zombies and zomcoms, so I was excited to get my hands on Hollow Kingdom, which tells of the zombie apocalypse from the perspective of a tame crow named Shitturd. I was expecting a riotous, laugh-out-loud funny book narrated by a feathered fucker, and for the first few chapters it was that, and I was happy. But gradually the book's tone shifted, and I wasn't as wild about the change. I can appreciate a comedy story having some heart, and it was kind of nice to see a zombie story about nature continuing on after humanity that acknowledges the things humans did right, that grieved the loss of our inventiveness and creativity. But it got a little heavy on that front, and the mythology of the animal kingdom got a little hard to keep up with. I also didn't love the cell phone's bad message, especially when the animals are described to have their own kind of internet to share thoughts and observations with each other across great distances. I probably would have preferred either a solid comedy following ST or an anthology of different animals reacting to the sudden disappearance of humanity, with ST's quest to rescue domestic animals trapped in their houses as a through line rather than a main focus. Instead, we got the half-formed combination of the two, and I just wasn't as much of a fan. But I think I would classify Hollow Kingdom as one of the strangest books that I've read in a while. Continuing with zombies, I also read Everything I Know About Zombies I Learned in Kindergarten by Kevin Wayne Williams. This one actually is an adult horror book starring a cast of children, primarily, as you would expect from the title, kindergartners. The zombie apocalypse starts right off and is utterly brutal, with extreme violence and gore as the children, the oldest of which is in 4th grade, struggle to survive. I enjoy the take on zombies as well, being the more classic reanimated dead, whose brains must be destroyed. Even if only a head remains, the head will stay animated and try to bite the living. While there are some good scenes, like the beginning, with the teachers immediately laying down their lives to protect the kids, which touches me in a personal way, generally the book felt like it lacked direction and focus. The next books in this lineup don't have quick reviews because I checked them out through Libby. I finally renewed my library card and was able to hop on and check out all kinds of ebooks, and I'm thinking of giving audiobooks a try, since I have a pretty lengthy commute to my new job. We'll see if I can manage that, since I tend to zone out a little while decompressing from my day in the car. Rise of ZomBert by Cara LaRoe was cute enough. It's definitely for younger readers, which is fine with me. If I found a physical copy, I would put it in my classroom library. Fourth graders Melly and Danny find an ugly cat that escaped from an animal testing facility, and due to its odd behaviors, Danny jokes that it might be a zombie. And that's kind of it. Rise of ZomBert is the first book in a trilogy, but I think that it's more like one complete story that was split up into three shorter books to better fit the age range it's marketed to. Overall, I like this one just fine, even if it does end up feeling incomplete without the other two books, which were sadly not available. I do love seeing the anti-consumerism take on zombies in a story marketed to children, since it's pretty obvious that the corporation that runs everything in town is responsible for whatever unethical animal experimentation was going on. Then I read Ever After by Olivia Vuig, which is a German graphic novel about two girls trying to make their way to a settlement in the zombie apocalypse after they escape from their old one, and it was weird. I don't know if there were just cultural references that I was not getting, but the scene changes were very abrupt and it was hard to follow what was going on at several points. Also, the characters were just kind of assholes the entire way through, and I didn't feel like I got to know them very closely, nor did they develop their friendship very much on their journey to the new city. I was almost hoping for a sapphic romance, but the chemistry was not there, if that was even the intent, which I doubt. It was also hard to determine the age range of this book, because the violence can be pretty graphic and there is some light swearing, so maybe it's aimed at older teens? I don't know, not a fan of this one. By this point, I was getting pretty disillusioned with the zombie books I was reading. Where were the good zombie books? Am I simply more of a zombie movie watcher than a zombie book reader? There are so many zombie movies that I adore, so why didn't I feel the same about their literary counterparts? To assuage my disappointment, I reread a book that I enjoyed and that I am honestly surprised I didn't own, because it is an effective summary of who I am in book form. Zombies vs. Unicorns, a horror and fantasy anthology edited by Holly Black and Justine Larbalestier, wherein each of the editors picks a side and presents the best short stories to represent their chosen creature. Sadly, it was not available on Libby, so while I waited for my order from Thrift Books, I picked up another book, You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, by Callan Bayron, about Charity's summer job as the final girl at a slasher-themed haunt camp, which sounds like the greatest thing ever, getting a little too real. And it was passable. It's a pretty short book and a quick read, but I think that the page time could have been spent a little better. For example, I really liked the dynamic between Charity, her girlfriend Desi, and their friends Tasha and Paige, but half of those characters don't appear until a few chapters in due to short staffing. I think it would have been stronger to start with those characters arriving so they had more page time, and Charity explaining in narration that she had to call them up due to the short staffing. The mystery aspect also didn't feel like it had enough time to develop, and a lot of the discoveries happen off page. The scene with Tasha's phone call is terrifying, but I wish that scene had happened earlier and been the one to kick off the scares rather than being so close to the end of the book. Great concept, good characters, but sadly lackluster performance overall. Switching gears to something a little more sci-fi, Paige Not Found by Jen Wilde was another book I grabbed at the Scholastic Book Fair, and I'm not going to say too much about it here because it is the second book of this wrap-up that will get a full review video all to itself. I have a lot to say about the stellar representation in this book and how it felt so personal to me. I wish this book had existed when I was younger. Then, at last, my copy of Zombies vs. Unicorns arrived. The banter between editors Holly Black and Justine Larbalestier was just as good as I remember. And the best part? The stories inside this collection aren't afraid to get weird, including the unicorn entries. I was really excited to reread these now and see if they still held up, and if I might understand them a little better now than when I first read the collection in high school. My favorites are The Children of the Revolution by Maureen Johnson, Inoculata by Scott Westerfeld, and Princess Pretty Pants by Meg Cabot. I think what I love and appreciate about this collection, possibly even more now than I did back then, is the fact that I believe this is the first traditionally published book I read that included queer characters. Before I read Zombies vs. Unicorns for the first time as a teen, pretty much all of my exposure to LGBT characters in written media came from fanfiction and headcanons about never quite fully confirmed but strongly hinted at couples. It was a bit of an eye-opener and is definitely one of the reasons Inoculata remains one of my favorites from the collection. And that is everything I read for SummerWeen. Since I'm back to work now, I don't think that I'll manage quite this many books in a single wrap-up video again, but who knows? My fall TBR video is on its way and will be posted soon for supporters who can weigh in on what I read and review on this channel. If that's something you're interested in, check the links in the description to my Ko-fi and Patreon pages to become a supporter and get all sorts of wonderful rewards. Have you read any of these books? What did you think of them? And what was on your SummerWeen reading list? Leave a comment down below to let me know, and keep growing until next time, Rose Garden.